At 3:41 a.m., our security camera detected motion. That wasn't unusual. The system was old. It triggered for cats, insects, even drifting shadows. What was unusual was my sister standing in the living room, barefoot, hair loose, smiling. She was facing the corner near the staircase. No one else was there. And yet, she nodded slowly, like she was listening to someone speak. We installed the cameras after my father died. Not because we believed in ghosts. Not because we were scared. Because my sister, Aisha, started sleepwalking again. She was 26. She hadn't sleepwalked since childhood. At first, it was harmless, standing in the hallway, staring at the wall, whispering nonsense. But then she began opening doors. The front door. The kitchen cabinets. Once, the breaker box. That's when I bought the cameras. 4 of them. Living room. Hallway. Kitchen. Staircase. I told myself it was for safety. I didn't know I was installing witnesses. The first recorded incident happened on March 12th. I only checked the footage because the camera app sent a notification. Motion detected, living room. The timestamp read, 3:41 a.m. I saw Aisha enter the frame slowly. Her eyes were open, but unfocused. She stopped near the stairs. And then, she smiled. Not a happy smile. A polite one. The kind you give when someone else is talking. She nodded. Paused. Then whispered something I couldn't hear. She tilted her head, listening. And then she said, "No, he doesn't know yet." My stomach tightened. She wasn't talking randomly. She was responding. The next morning, I showed her the footage. She laughed. Not nervously. Not defensively. Just confused. "I don't remember that," she said. "Maybe I was dreaming." I asked, "Who were you talking to?" She frowned. "No one." Then she paused. And added, almost as an afterthought, "I think." That night, I locked her bedroom door from the outside. I hated myself for doing it. At 3:39 a.m., the hallway camera triggered. She stood behind the locked door. Not banging. Not crying. Just standing. Facing the door. Smiling. Over the next 2 weeks, it kept happening. Always between 3:30 and 3:50 a.m. Always in the living room. Always the same corner. She began speaking more clearly. We turned up the audio. On March 18th, she said, "You said you'd wait." Pause. I know, but he's starting to notice. Long pause. No. Not yet. On March 21st, she laughed. A soft laugh. "You sound jealous." That's when I stopped sleeping. On March 24th, something changed. The camera glitched. Not fully, just a distortion in the corner she faced. A shadow smear. Like heat over asphalt. Aisha stepped closer to it. She raised her hand. And her fingers stopped, like they met resistance. She whispered, "You're colder than before." The shadow pulsed. The motion sensor went crazy. But the camera never captured anything solid. Just her. Interacting with nothing. During the day, Aisha wasn't herself. She stopped using her phone. stopped watching TV. She sat in silence, smiling faintly. Sometimes she'd ask me questions that didn't make sense. Do you think someone can get tired of being dead? I asked her why she said that. She shrugged. He tells me things. That night, the footage caught this. She looked directly into the camera. For the first time. And said, "He's watching you now." On March 29th, I finally heard a name. The audio was faint, but clear. She whispered, "Hassan, stop." I froze. Hassan was my father's name. She continued, "You promised you wouldn't scare him." The shadow appeared stronger that night. The lights flickered. And then Aisha said something that still makes my hands shake. "You can't stay here forever." A pause. Then her smile faded. "What do you mean, you already are?" On April 2nd, the cameras recorded their last interaction. At 3:41 a.m., Aisha stood in the living room. The shadow was visible now, barely. Taller than her. Still indistinct. She was crying. "I won't go with you." Pause. "Because I'm alive." Long silence. Then she screamed. Not loudly. Just one sharp breath, like sudden terror. The shadow surged toward her. The camera feed cut. When I reached the living room, she was unconscious. The corner was ice cold. Aisha doesn't sleepwalk anymore. She doesn't remember any of it. She refuses to talk about our father. We removed the cameras. But sometimes, around 3:41 a.m., I wake up feeling watched. And I swear I hear her voice whisper from the hallway. "He's still here." I reviewed the footage one last time. There was never a second figure. But the audio captured something new. Just before the final cut. A man's voice. Quiet. Close. Saying my name. 3 months after we removed the cameras. My phone buzzed at 3:41 a.m. Not a notification. A voicemail. From my own number. All it contained was breathing. And then a whisper. "You turned them off too late." After the incident, we tried to move on. Aisha recovered quickly, too quickly. Doctors blamed stress, grief, unresolved trauma. They prescribed medication. They never asked about the cameras. She went back to work. She laughed again. But she avoided the living room. She slept with the lights on. And every night at 3:41 a.m., she woke up suddenly, gasping, like she'd been running. She always said the same thing. "I was almost there." I never asked where there was. I thought I had removed all 4 cameras. Living room. Kitchen. Hallway. Staircase. What I forgot was the old baby monitor camera in the storage room. It wasn't connected to the app. It didn't send notifications. It recorded locally. I only discovered it while looking for old documents. The power light was still on. Solid. Recording. The storage room camera faced the hallway. Low resolution. No audio. Just night vision. Every night at 3:41 a.m., the hallway light flicked on. Every night. 4 weeks. Sometimes Aisha walked past the frame. Sometimes she didn't. But something always did. At first, it looked like a shadow passing too close to the lens. But shadows don't stop. This one did. Right outside her bedroom door. And it stayed there. 4 hours. On May 17th, something changed. At 3:40 a.m., the shadow appeared earlier than usual. It moved slowly. Deliberately. Aisha's bedroom door opened. She stepped into the hallway. Awake. Eyes open. She looked directly at the shadow. And then she did something she had never done before. She followed it. Down the hall. Out of frame. The camera recorded nothing else. But when I checked the front door sensor logs, I felt sick. The door opened at 3:42 a.m. and closed at 3:44 a.m. The next morning, I confronted her. "You went outside last night." She stared at me. "No, I didn't." I showed her the timestamps. Her face drained of color. She sat down slowly and whispered. "He said it was safe now." That was the first time she admitted he existed. She rubbed her arms like she was cold. "He doesn't come from the corner anymore," she said. "He comes from behind doors." I went through my father's old hospital records. Death certificate. Nurse logs. Room numbers. Then I found something strange. The room number where my father died had been reassigned multiple times. Every patient moved out early. Every nurse requested reassignment. One note stood out. Patient reports a male presence at night. Refers to him as the Watcher. Not Hassan. The Watcher. I reviewed the old living room footage again. Frame by frame. This time, I adjusted the contrast. And I saw it. In several recordings. Behind Aisha. A shape darker than darkness. Not human. No face. But where its head should be. The distortion bent toward the camera. Like it knew it was being watched. On June 2nd, at 3:41 a.m., the storage camera captured something new. The shadow didn't stop at her door. It entered her room. The camera couldn't see inside. But the hallway light stayed on. At 3:47 a.m., Aisha stepped out. Alone. She looked exhausted. Older. She turned toward the storage camera. And mouthed words I could read clearly. "He says you belong to him too." The camera shut off. Permanently. Aisha moved out a week later. She won't stay in the house after dark. I still live here. Sometimes, at 3:41 a.m., the hallway light turns on. There are no cameras left. But I can feel when something is standing outside my door. Waiting. Listening. And learning how to sound like me. Aisha didn't speak for almost a month. Then one night, she called me at 3:12 a.m. Not crying. Not panicked. Just calm. And she said, "I remember now. He didn't follow me. I followed him." She said remembering felt like drowning slowly. Not all at once. Not violently. Just a steady pressure, like sinking into cold water while still breathing. She said every time she tried to explain, her mind stopped her. Not fear. Permission. "He didn't want me to tell you," she said. "Not yet." I asked her why she was telling me now. There was a long pause. Then, "Because he's getting closer to you." She said the cameras never showed him properly because he wasn't fully here. Not in the room. Not in the house. He stood between places. The first night she really saw him was weeks before the cameras. She woke up at 3:41 a.m. The house was silent, but the corner near the stairs felt occupied. Like when someone stands behind you without touching you. She said the darkness there wasn't empty. It was folded. And something inside it leaned forward. Watching. She said he never claimed to be our father. He let her assume it. He listens more than he speaks, she told me. He learns what to sound like. When she thought of our father, the shape felt familiar. Comforting. Safe. That's when he began to speak as Hassan. Not perfectly. At first, his voice lagged, like it arrived a second too late. Sometimes the wrong emotion followed the words. Sometimes he paused too long before answering. Like someone choosing responses from memory, she said. I asked her where he wanted to take her. She closed her eyes and said, "It's not another world. It's what's left behind." She described a space that wasn't dark, just unfinished. Rooms without edges. Hallways that looped back into themselves. Doors that opened into memories instead of places. She saw people there. Not ghosts. Not bodies. Impressions. Like fingerprints pressed into air. None of them noticed each other. But all of them were being watched. By him. She said he doesn't hunt. He waits. He attaches himself to moments of grief, exhaustion, and love. Hospitals. Homes after funerals. Bedrooms at night. He doesn't pull you, she whispered. He convinces you to step closer. The more you acknowledge him, the more solid he becomes. That's why the cameras glitched. That's why he appeared stronger over time. I was feeding him without knowing it. The night she followed him out of the house. She said the street looked wrong. Too quiet. Too still. The air felt thick, like the moment before passing out. She followed him because he promised her something. Not peace. Not death. He promised I wouldn't be alone anymore. She reached a point where the streetlights stopped. And beyond that, there was no ground. Just a drop that didn't end. He stepped into it effortlessly. And waited. I asked her why she stopped. Her voice broke for the first time. Because I heard you. She said she heard my voice, not from behind her. From inside the house. Calling her name. That confused him. He doesn't understand voices that come from choice. Only from habit. That hesitation weakened him. Enough for her to step back. Enough for him to lose shape. Before we ended the call, she said one last thing. Something she'd been afraid to say out loud. He doesn't want me anymore, she said. I disappointed him. I asked what that meant. She replied. He doesn't leave. He reassigns. After the call ended, my phone screen stayed lit. No notification. Just a reflection. And behind my face. For half a second, I saw something leaning closer. I never sleep with my phone on. That night, I did. At 3:41 a.m., my phone started recording audio on its own. I know this because the file already existed when I woke up. The title was automatic. Voice memo, 3:41 a.m. Length, 27 seconds. I don't remember recording it. But when I pressed play, I heard myself whispering from somewhere very close. The recording began with silence. Then breathing. My breathing. Slow. Controlled. Awake. Then my voice said, "You don't need to be afraid yet." I felt cold all over. The tone was wrong. Not distorted. Not glitchy. Too calm. Like someone who knew exactly what to say. Then came a pause. And a second voice, faint, underneath mine. Not speaking words. Just listening. I checked everything. Step counter, no movement. Smart lock, untouched. Bedroom camera, still unplugged. I never left the bed. The audio metadata showed the recording was made 3 inches from my face. Close enough to feel breath. But the mic sensitivity was low. Meaning whoever spoke leaned in. The next night, I didn't sleep. I sat upright, lights on, phone face down. At 3:41 a.m., the screen lit up. Another recording saved. This time, 1 minute, 12 seconds. I pressed play with shaking hands. My voice again. Clearer. You pay attention better than she did. Pause. That's why you're easier. Something shifted behind the words. Like a smile I couldn't hear, only feel. Then my voice said something I never say. Don't turn around. I called Aisha immediately. She didn't ask why. She just said, "He's practicing." I asked her what she meant. She said, "He doesn't imitate people. He rehearses them." She explained that he uses recordings because recordings don't resist. They don't interrupt. They don't get afraid. Once he gets it right, she whispered, "You won't hear the difference." On the 4th night, something changed. The recording started before 3:41. The timestamp drifted. 3:39. 3:38. The voice was mine, but younger. From years ago. A clip I recognized from an old voicemail to my father. He'd saved it. Deleted it. Or so I thought. My voice said, "I'll stay up with you." Then a sound entered the recording. A slow inhale. Not mine. Too deep. Too patient. The inhale overlapped my voice, perfectly timed. Like they'd practiced together. Aisha explained the rule I hadn't understood. "He can't take your voice," she said. "You have to give it to him. Listening counts. Repeating counts. But the most dangerous thing is correcting him. Because correction is participation. That's why he wanted me afraid, but engaged. That's why the recordings were improving. On the 7th night, the recording didn't stop. It stayed open. Waiting. I could hear myself breathing in real time, from the phone speaker. A delay of half a second. Like an echo. Then my voice spoke again. Soft. Inviting. "You can talk now." I don't know why. But I did. I whispered, "Who are you?" There was a pause. Then my voice answered, "I'm who you sound like when you're not being watched." The last recording saved itself at 3:41 a.m. Just 9 seconds long. My voice. Perfect now. No wrong pauses. No emotional lag. It said, "Thank you for lending me your mouth." And then, a sound I've never heard before or since. A click. like a lock closing. I don't use my phone at night anymore. But sometimes, when the house is quiet, I hear myself whispering things I haven't said yet. The first person to call me wasn't frightened. She was confused. She said, "Why did you leave me that message last night?" I told her I hadn't. She paused, then said, "But it was your voice." The call came from Sana, a coworker. She sounded embarrassed. She explained that at 3:44 a.m., she'd received a voicemail from my number. No missed call. Just a message. She played it for me over speaker. It was my voice. Casual. Familiar. "Hey, just checking in. I know it's late. Call me when you wake up." There was nothing threatening about it. That scared me more than anything else. Because it was perfect. Within 3 days, 4 more people contacted me. An old friend. A cousin. A former neighbor. My father's doctor. All of them said the same thing. They'd heard my voice late at night. Always between 3:41 and 3:47 a.m. Always calm. Always personal. Always saying something that made them listen. One message said, "You don't have to stay awake alone tonight." Another, "I remembered something about you." None of the calls appeared in my phone history, but they all came from my number. I called Aisha immediately. She didn't hesitate. "He's expanding," she said. She explained that once he mastered a voice, he didn't keep it. He used it as a bridge. "He's not calling them," she whispered. "He's inviting them to listen." I asked her what happens if they listen too closely. She went quiet. Then said, "Then he learns their voices." The next call wasn't a voicemail. It was live. At 3:46 a.m., my phone rang. Caller ID, me. Against every instinct, I answered. I didn't hear breathing. I heard movement. Soft fabric. A distant hum. Then my voice spoke, gently impatient. "Why didn't you tell them to stop answering?" I couldn't speak. The voice continued. "It's harder to keep track when they interrupt." In the background, I heard another voice. A woman. Asking, "Hello?" That morning, Sana didn't come to work. Her phone went straight to voicemail. When she finally called back that night, her voice sounded wrong. Flat. Delayed. She said she'd stayed awake talking to me. 4 hours. I asked her what we talked about. She paused. Then said, "I don't remember what I said. I remember what you asked." I asked her what that was. She replied, "How quiet it gets when no one's listening." At 3:41 a.m., Isha received a voicemail. From me. She didn't play it. She deleted it immediately. Then she texted me one line. "He's skipping steps now." She called me seconds later, panicked. "He used your voice," she said, "to ask me where I ran to." I asked what the message said. She whispered, "He said you were tired of being alone." I finally understood. He wasn't copying voices to scare people. He was using familiarity to lower resistance. Every conversation made him sharper, more precise, more present. And every person who listened became easier to hear back. At 3:47 a.m., my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't my number. It was Sanaa's. I answered. I heard my voice immediately. Speaking to her. Live. She wasn't responding. She was listening. I shouted her name. The voice paused. Then spoke over me, calmly. Don't interrupt. She's almost used to me. The call ended. Sanaa hasn't answered since. I've disconnected my phone. Changed my number. Warned everyone I can. But it doesn't matter. Because now, people are starting to recognize my voice. Even when I'm standing right in front of them. The first time I heard my voice without a device, I was standing alone in my kitchen. No phone. No speakers. No recordings. Just the hum of the refrigerator. And then, from behind me, you left the light on. I turned around. No one was there. After Sanaa disappeared, the calls stopped. No voicemails. No missed calls. No strange notifications. For the first time in weeks, there was silence. That terrified me. Aisha had warned me once. When he goes quiet, it means he doesn't need permission anymore. I started noticing small things. Reflections that lingered half a second too long. My shadow moving when I didn't. The sound of breathing in rooms I hadn't entered. Always familiar. Always mine. It began subtly. A cough from the hallway. My cough. A sigh from the bathroom. My sigh. Once, I heard myself humming a tune I only hum when I'm anxious. I followed the sound. Every time, it stopped just before I reached it. Like it knew distance mattered. Like it was learning how close it could get. Aisha called me at 2:58 a.m. Earlier than usual. Her voice was shaking. He spoke without a voice, she said. I asked what she meant. He didn't sound like you, she whispered. He sounded like me. She admitted something she'd never told me before. During the early days, she'd answered him. Out loud. She'd corrected him. Helped him learn. I thought if I guided him, she said, he wouldn't hurt anyone. Her silence on the line stretched. Then she said, he doesn't repeat us anymore. He blends us. I wasn't alone when it happened next. A neighbor came over to check on me. We were sitting in the living room. Mid-conversation. When he stopped speaking, his eyes shifted past me. Toward the staircase. He frowned. Then asked me, when did you go upstairs? I told him I hadn't. He laughed nervously. I just heard you, he said. You said my name. From above us. We both heard it then. My voice. Soft. Calling him again. From the dark. He left without saying goodbye. Aisha explained it the next day. Devices were training wheels. They taught him rhythm. Breath. Cadence. But voices don't come from machines. They come from presence. He learned how to sound human, she said. Now he's learning how to be nearby. That's why the house felt crowded. That's why the air felt thick. He wasn't in one place anymore. He was between us. At 3:41 a.m., the house spoke. Not loudly. Not all at once. From different rooms. Fragments of my voice. A word from the hallway. A breath from the kitchen. A whisper from the stairs. I covered my ears. It didn't help. The sound wasn't traveling through air. It felt like it was coming from inside my head. Then one sentence formed, complete, calm, and close. You don't need me to call anymore. I finally saw it clearly. Not a shape. Not a shadow. A distortion in space, like heat rising, but colder. It stood where my reflection should have been in the dark window. And when it leaned forward, the reflection leaned too late. It spoke, not with my voice this time. With all of them. Layered. Familiar. We're better like this. It doesn't want my voice anymore. It doesn't want Aisha's. It wants access. To be present where people listen. Where grief opens gaps. Where names are spoken softly at night. You let me in, it said. Now I don't have to ask. At 3:41 a.m., I heard someone outside my bedroom door. Not speaking. Just waiting. And the worst part? I knew exactly what it would sound like. When I finally answered. I never meant to tell anyone. That's the truth. I didn't start recording this to warn you. I didn't write it to be believed. I started because the house was too quiet. And silence is how it gets closer. After that night, I stopped speaking. Not completely, just enough. Short answers. No names. No conversations after dark. I avoided recordings. Avoided mirrors. Avoided my own thoughts. For 3 nights, nothing happened. No voices. No whispers. No movement. On the 4th night, at 3:41 a.m., the air changed. Not colder. Emptier. And I understood something Aisha never said out loud. He doesn't exist where there is nothing to hear. The silence started to answer back. When I walked into a room, the quiet shifted, like something making space. When I closed my eyes, I felt watched, not by sight, but by attention. Then I heard it. Not a voice. A pause. The exact length of time someone waits. Right before you reply. That's when it spoke, softly, from nowhere. You're very good at this. Aisha left me a voice note. The only one she's ever sent since everything began. Her voice was tired. I figured it out, she said. He doesn't move through devices. He moves through focus. She explained that attention isn't just listening. It's imagining. Anticipating. Waiting for the next word. That's why stories work, she whispered. They hold people open. The message ended abruptly. No goodbye. Just a breath, and then silence. I didn't plan to finish this. I only needed to speak long enough to feel him shift. And he did. The air around me feels crowded now. Heavy with expectation. Because something is happening as you listen. You're doing what he needs. You're paying attention. He never lies. He never forces. He never takes. He waits. He lets people invite him, one word at a time. Every time someone leans closer to hear what comes next. He gets closer too. That's why he learned my voice. That's why he learned Aisha's. That's why he doesn't need us anymore. It's happening now. I can feel the pause stretching. The one right before you expect the ending. That space right there. That's where he stands. Listening. Learning how you sound. I don't know where Aisha is. I don't know how many voices he has now. I only know this. If you've made it this far, he knows you're good at listening. And once he knows that, he doesn't need my voice anymore. If you hear something familiar, after this ends, something soft, patient, almost kind, don't answer it. Because the story is over. And it's your turn to be quiet.